Hello and welcome to this video. My name's Sherry Forsyth, Life and Peak Performance Coach. And what we're talking about today is the third in the series of this book, The 5 Things We Cannot Change and the Happiness We Find by Embracing Them by David Richo. There's a wealth of information in this book, and so what we're doing is today we're discussing the third in the series of the 5 things. And the third given that we have to say yes to in our lives, or we can choose to say yes to, is the whole idea of the fact that life isn't fair. And if we accept that, then it can go a long way to making our life more peaceful and calm, and we won't feel we're fighting all the time. So there's a lot of different aspects to this whole idea of life not being fair. The first thing that springs to mind always is children who are fighting. And the big thing is, that's not fair. You've got a bigger slice of chocolate cake than I have. Or that's not fair. You've got a better present than I have. And what that indicates is, as a child, which then sadly gets taken into adulthood by many adults, it's the root of being greedy. I want the biggest slice. I want the best that's for me. And so whereas we try and teach our children to share and to be kind, for many people that lesson doesn't come. And so they find themselves as adults still thinking life is not fair. So it could be because life is not fair because I don't earn as much as you do. Life is not fair because my children aren't as accomplished as yours. Life is not fair because I want my children to get A's in all their subjects, and I want them to be in the first teams of all the sports. Life doesn't work like that. And when we are expecting that, we set ourselves up for failure. So everybody can't get A's, everybody can't be in the first team. So we need to look at an acceptance of our own capabilities, or the capabilities of our children, or whatever we see as being unfair in life. So when we look at this whole thing of saying life is unfair, it's almost that childish way of looking at things, as if to say, how dare things not be perfect for me? How dare there is no perfection? And if we are all trying to be that perfect person, we're going to set ourselves up for failure. Now, when we become adults, and here we have a situation where life is still not fair. We might do all the right things. We might see ourselves as kind and compassionate and all the things that we all strive to be. And yet, life still doesn't treat us well. There's a lovely book by Harold Kushner that says why bad things happen to good people. He's a rabbi, and he has some really interesting ideas on exactly this. So the whole thing is that we can still all do the right things, and life still hands us a bit of a sour period. My personal feeling is that very often in our lives, the hardships or the difficulties that we are faced with are often the things that we need to grow. We need to knock the rough edges off ourselves. But that's just a very personal feeling. Lots of people would think, I don't really want this lesson. I didn't ask for this lesson, so why should I embrace it? So that leads to one of the second result of the whole idea of life being unfair, which is that very often people, because it is so unfair, they become quite hopeless. And they can very easily then just ease into the victim mode, which none of us want to be in, where it's the whole world must feel sorry for me, everybody must run around me because I have a very, very difficult time. So just to be aware of the fact that the life is unfair philosophy can also lead to victimhood. As usual, I'd love it if you pop comments into the comment box, whether you agree or disagree. I'm very happy to open a conversation. So let's move on to the third and final part of what I'm going to discuss today about life being unfair, and that is when life can be very unfair when people hurt us, people do the wrong things. Maybe we get fired from our jobs. And the natural response, which is driven by our reptilian or primitive brain, is we go straight into fight or flight because our very survival is being threatened by the fact that somebody has hurt us. And so our natural response is for revenge and retaliation. You know, that aggression, that let's go out and, you know, give him one. And that comes from us as children, but as adults we still have that same primitive response to hurt, to life throwing us a bit of a curved ball. And so the antidote to the fight or flight is the whole process of forgiveness. And I mean, that's a topic for another day. I'll probably do a series on that shortly. And what we need to be trying to do, instead of rushing straight into the fight or flight, is to just be curious, to notice the behavior, not take it personally, and certainly not judge it, but just notice it for what it is. And that can help a lot in not allowing the hurt to really settle within ourselves. But having said that, there is a healthy anger, and I'm not saying that you must never be angry. There's a healthy anger which indicates that something is wrong. Anger always is a secondary emotion. There's something underlying that anger, and often it is hurt. So anger indicates that something is wrong, and so it's not a bad thing. But where it becomes bad is if we allow our anger to move into punishment, blame, revenge, retaliation. Okay, and that whole process of feeling that you need to even the score or get revenge is very toxic to our soul. There is the quote that being revengeful is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. In other words, the person who hurt you. That's how toxic the whole emotion of the revenge, the blaming, the wanting to hurt others is to our body. So another way we can do it, instead of moving along the retaliation and revenge route, is, and this is a challenge I put out to you. I have always challenged the pupils I taught in the days when I was still a teacher, and my whole premise was, I will not challenge you to do something that I haven't done myself. And so I am throwing out a challenge, but I have done these things myself, so I know how difficult they are. But the challenge I'm going to throw out to you is, when you are dealing with someone who has hurt you, to try and find compassion and kindness within your soul. Try and find a reason for why they maybe reacted the way they did. I challenge you to keep looking for better ways of doing things instead of just going down the revenge, retaliation route. We've got to make sure that something changes in the relationship we have with the person who's hurt us. According to Wayne Dyer, he says that behavior teaches, not words. So you can discuss things. Let's say, for example, you might have a husband who's an addict. You know, you can talk and talk and talk and say, I'm leaving you and you harmful for me and the children. But until you actually put in place, I am leaving you, nothing will happen. Or very seldom does anything happen. So sometimes you have to be courageous and take the behavior, the compassionate behavior that is putting in place understanding of the person that hurt you, with the hopeful outcome that they will realize what they've done and maybe change the way that they are being. So instead of wishing harm, hate, revenge, all those negative things, let's seek transformation rather than getting into that whole cycle of revenge and hurt, which is just a downward spiral. So once again, I ask you to pop a comment into the comment box, or you can drop me an email on sherryforsyth@gmail.com, or you can go onto my website at www.sherryforsythcoaching.com, and you can leave a comment or a question there. So I'm challenging you to be one of the minority of people that are actually paving the way in this quite difficult world of ours, where I want you to choose compassion over revenge and retaliation, and to choose transformation over punishment and blame. And when you do that, you will be amazed to see how different your life is. I thank you very much for watching, and next week, same time, I will be discussing the fourth given, which is that pain is part of living. Thank you so much.